We're not used to it. So.
We're back in session. I'll ask the Supervisor Leggett
I haven't talked to
to
him.
announce the results of the executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a good discussion and there was no action taken.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on with our rest of our agenda. County Administrator, you have any report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had great meetings this week with Mayor Blaze and Mayor Collins. Mayor Blaze is appreciative of the support for ice castles and other events. He has a great relationship with the tourism department, appreciates that. Mayor Collins is interested in partnering more with looking for opportunities with Warren County. He plans to get with the Glens Falls Supervisors and discuss that with them. I've met with many of our departments and employees and appreciate the welcomes I've received by department heads and by other employees. And I should finish those by mid-February. And I've already started setting up sessions with town supervisors to come out, meet with you in your areas and, maybe kind of get the lay of the land, have some chance to spend time learning about your challenges. We developed an interim plan to deal with the departure of Joy LaFountain in the assigned counsel's office. And we will move forward with a job advertisement to replace her. We're finalizing that this week and early next week, and it should be out next week. We also released a job advertisement for a new tourism director. That's out. It will run for 3 weeks. I attended the kickoff for the Balloon Festival at Queensbury Town Office. This year it's the 50th anniversary and we expect a large turnout. So it should be a great event and we appreciate everyone's support with that. Ice Castles update. Looks like they're going to open the first week of February. Now they will open their ice bar. That's new this year. And it'll be open January 27th from 6 to 10 and Saturday, January 28th from 2 to 10 p.m. And it's open to everyone and you don't need tickets for that. So we'll be publicizing that. Also met with Ryan Moore. He sends his regards to everyone. And he said he loved this job and I can see why. So because I do as well. Upcoming next week, we begin our prep for negotiations with some of our union contracts, and we'll be discussing those in committee. And we're preparing for the committee meetings next week. I also meet with SUNY Adirondack and DPW in the next few weeks. Thanks to all the department heads and all our employees who are doing such great work out there. And it's a great team, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Okay, report of county attorney.
Good morning. There are 5 floor resolutions that are going to be before the board today for consideration. They were judiciously submitted and requested by the county attorney's office because of time constraints that involve those resolutions. Floor resolution 2 is again another request or notification letter that the county received under section 487 of the real property tax law for a solar project in Warren County. The county has a statutory obligation to reply within 60 days of that letter notification, and failure to respond results in the project being exempt, the improvements being exempted from taxation. So floor 2 is a resolution presented for the board's consideration on requiring the payment of taxes for that project under a pilot agreement per the language of section 487 of real property tax law. It's before this board because there's not sufficient time to bring it through the committee process to meet the 60-day statutory time limit. Floor resolution 4 is a proposed local law 2 of 2023. It was a topic of discussion at the organizational meeting. And it's proposing very restricted and limited amendments to local law 9 of 2021, specifically section 4, And that's the local law that deals with the form of government for Warren County, as well as section 4, which addresses the weighted votes. The modifications that are being proposed are limited to page 3 of 4 of the local law, and specifically changing the weighted vote numbers for the 5 supervisors from Glens Falls from their prior numbers to 45 votes each. The county did receive a request by letter from the mayor of Glens Falls. We also received population information for each of the wards. Mathematically, 45 is the correct number based on the population numbers which we received from the city of Glens Falls. And then those weighted vote tallies were incorporated with the rest of the board numbers and run through our computer systems to ensure their fairness. And without going into too much detail, because I'm a lawyer, because I don't do math very well, the result of the modifications increases the number of combinations which can result in a weighted vote. Meaning the new numbers make it easier for combinations of supervisors to reach the majority vote required to pass any resolution. So in summary, that's a good thing. Floor resolution 6 is a proposed local law 3 of 2023. This had gone through multiple committees last year and was not voted on or advanced. It is the resolution putting before the board whether the county will do a blanket policy on the solar, wind, and farm product tax exemption statute section 487. Specifically, should that move forward and become a local law, then this board will not have to, within 60 days of receiving a letter from a project that's doing a solar farm, they will no longer have to respond on a case-by-case basis, because the policy under that proposed local law would be that the county does not grant the tax exemption for solar, wind, or farm products. Floor resolution 8 is another of a series of opioid settlement agreements. The county signature is required by February 2nd to accept this pharmaceutical. Teva was part of the multi-month trial that occurred between the Attorney General's office, Nassau, and Suffolk County. And the terms, the relevant and important terms are in the resolution. If anybody has specific questions regarding the details, I would need to go into executive session to address those. Because the settlement agreement is confidential, as it has not been signed by all parties, and it has not been approved by the court at this time. And then finally, floor resolution 10. I thank Senator Steck's office for contacting my office and asking us to move forward with a resolution that requests the legislature to move forward to extend the Warren County mortgage tax, which is set to expire December 1st of 2023. That resolution is only seeking to extend the time and does not seek any other changes or modifications to the state statute that's currently in effect for Warren County mortgage tax. This will assist in getting it into the legislative process for February so that it can be reviewed, hopefully acted on, and then come back to the county to be enacted as a local law once we have the approval from the state legislature. Subject to any questions, there are some matters potentially for executive session. I believe we can cover those in regarding litigation matters. They can be discussed more fully during committee meetings next week. Subject to any questions by the board or a desire to have another executive session today for a litigation update.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you. I did try to ask a question of our county administrator, so at the appropriate time, I'd like to do that, but my questions right now are for the county attorney. I just have a couple quick questions about your report, County Attorney Elman, and thank you for those updates. As it relates to the weighted votes that are before us today, my first question on that is, provided that vote passes today to set a public hearing, that would not be in effect until the next board meeting, which I believe is a special board meeting on February 3rd. Is that correct?
And potentially it's not in effect until it's filed with the Secretary of State, should it pass the vote at the next scheduled board meeting after publication of the
Okay.
local law occurs.
And how long can that take?
I don't have the ability to know how long it takes the Department of State, but usually like within a week or two.
So it's safe to say our hope is that we have the accurate weighted votes to represent the city, the people, of the city of Glens Falls, with their appropriate and representatives no later than our next board meeting in February.
I think that's fair.
Okay,
I think that would be fair, but again, it's really going to be up to Department of State
Right.
receiving, reviewing and filing.
my second question about that was, obviously, those results from the city of Glens Falls, once the people voted, would have been certified by our Warren County Board of Elections late November, beginning of December, correct?
I would assume so, yes. I haven't looked to check on it,
Right.
but I would assume the Board of Elections would certify
Yeah.
all votes in Warren County.
Because of those answers here today, and again, talking about the equity to the people of Glens Falls, I'll be abstaining from all votes today. But I am aware that I can engage in the dialogue and ask the questions. My other question is about the rules of the board. You spoke today about some off the floor resolutions, which of course are never ideal, but they're here before us. One of those that you spoke about talked about the appointing of a position, a department head.
I don't know that I addressed any, the only resolution.
Perhaps that was a county administrator.
The only resolutions I addressed were ones that my office were
Was that you?
proposing due to time limitations that prevent us to take it through.
Well, I'll hit that question over the county administrator, but just while I still have you, Larry, the mortgage tax. I 2 years ago opposed that. I was told that we would get that opportunity again this year. And so it looks like now we're just saying we're gonna put a resolution for it saying then it would be effective the following year, asking for more time. Because as we all
Yeah.
recall, we had a problem with that.
I wasn't here, so I don't, I am aware that it lapsed.
Right,
I wasn't here when that occurred.
okay,
The only purpose is if there is no changes sought by the Board of Supervisors, it gets the legislature moving to get it on their agenda. So that we don't run into any last minute needs for special sessions to try to get this done
Right.
days before it lapses on December 1st.
is it essential it's done today?
There's been a request from the senator's office that it be done and provided by the beginning of February so that his office can start to get their job done and get it on the agenda. I can't say that not voting on it today or means we somehow are going to miss the
Mhm.
December 1st deadline.
Okay.
But I
That's fine, but
I don't want to say any more than that because
I've got it. And just my other two quick questions over the county administrator's report, and I apologize, I'm sure you didn't see my hand, Mr. Chairman. My question there is just on two quick things. One, I appreciate all the effort and the communication, and I know you've been working very hard with our community and our staff. What I am disappointed over is that in learning that we didn't negotiate a locals day officially for the ice castles. And I know weather has been tricky, but many of us attended that last year. I have had an overwhelming number of people ask me about when is that going to be. I think it's fair to tell our public that the only locals day, if it takes place due to weather, will be for the residents of Lake George, with a 12845. It is a county sponsored event. It's one that we gave a lot of OPEX money to. And we worked very hard in 2021 to negotiate an opportunity for locals to see the ice castles at a reduced rate. I understand that you'll continue to advocate to them, but I hope that putting it on the public record here today reminds them that we are a full county. We are not just Lake George, and we should do our very best to include all of our residents and particularly, of course, I'm speaking on behalf of Queensberry, but I'm sure many of us share in that. That being said, I also would assume they're limiting the numbers to the ice bar, given that complaint that they had too many people on Locals Day from all of Warren County. I don't know how on earth they'll open it up for free, and I'm sure that opens up many other questions, as my supervisor from Queensberry next to me mentioned, perhaps that there's some legal concerns, and I don't know what's in the contract for having an ice bar, but you don't need to answer that right now. I'm sure our county attorney will work with you on it. But my more important question is about the rules of the board. So before us today is the resolution that you're introducing off the floor to appoint a department head. When we create new positions, the rules of the board indicate a 2/3 must approve it. But through the budget process, historically, these positions have just been created. They've been funded. And then they go to committee for only a committee approval that just is a simple intent to fill. And the budget is voted on by a simple majority, not a super majority. We don't sit here and vote on that as a 2/3, as we all know from this last budget round. I think it's inappropriate for us to be creating something like 20 new positions in the budget and not having a 2/3 vote on that. I've asked to see the policies and procedures that surround that, notwithstanding the fact our rules of the boards do indicate a 2/3. Can you provide any clarification on where the authorization comes from to do that?
When we passed the budget, those positions were approved in the budget. And so the floor resolution today is just appointing the individual who's going into the position that was approved during the budget process.
But it's a newly created position, correct?
It is a newly created position.
And our rules of the board state a 2/3 is required for a newly created position, correct?
When they're submitted, I think, I
In
believe,
general, though,
in general, yes, when
Two-thirds.
when they're submitted outside of the budget process, but not during the budget process.
where does it say that anywhere? Where can I find that information? Because I'd like to propose a change to it, but I've asked over and over before I got here today. And no one can seem to provide it.
Okay, I'll have to follow up with you on that.
Well, chances are I'm not going to be here for you to follow up with it, but I would really appreciate it if you would follow up publicly. I think that our board needs to have an update at the next public hearing or public meeting. And I think it's incumbent upon us to recognize that that 2/3 is there because creating these positions is a forever create. We just created one outside of our regular process, put it into the budget, and it's a workaround. So it was a simple majority vote and not a 2/3. We all agreed on the rules of the board and how important 2/3 are. I went back, I handed my colleague from Glens Falls, rules of the boards all the way back to 2010. That has been part of our functioning here at the county, that we vote on newly created positions. And historically, we're not doing it when they're slammed into the budget. And I really hope that is something with this new leadership headed by you, Mr. County Administrator, that you will look into. Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Montgomery.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my concern was there for our administrator there on the ice castles. I'm very pleased that we're going to be opening, and you know, and I'm a little shocked to hear of an ice bar. I don't really remember that in the proposal, but the first thing that came to my mind was in our contract, but really when you have a bar, unless it's a juice bar, all right, which if anybody's familiar with, that's non-alcoholic. The additional insured and the liabilities that come along with that, especially in a icy area. So I just want to make sure we're covered, and maybe this could be for our attorney too. I mean, I'm not questioning, I'm to the point where I'm happy. You know, I went there last year. I am concerned that it is not a county-wide, and I understand that you know, it was overwhelming last year with the whole county coming at one day. So you know, why they couldn't do maybe certain towns on certain weekends or whatever to disperse it, but the architects did give a lot of money to this, and I stand behind it. I think it's a great event that they're putting on. And but I mean, unfortunately, I really like to see that the whole county being involved, because there is no I in team. So and that, and then the other thing, I'm a little confused on this appointment for this new planning and community development position, because I sit on that committee, and I have the agenda here, and it has nothing to do with the person involved. It has to do more of my understanding of what we voted on, and then what is taking place today. It really hit me by shock. So is this something I could talk about now? Because we can't talk about it after it's voted on. Well, this would be for the chairman.
Is this for a specific resolution? I want
This
to
is for
clarify
the
that.
floor resolution number 11.
We're gonna get to the resolutions in a minute, but you wanted to clarify the ice castles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One point of clarification on the ice castle. So some of you are aware, when they opened it up to the entire county last year, there were a lot of people there, and they received a lot of damage that they had to, just because of all the people that they needed to fix before they continued to open. They're going to do a free day or the $5 day for starting with Glens Falls on the first Monday, but they're going to continue that on every successive Monday after the first one. And we're negotiating with them. We'll continue to try to negotiate to get additional people from across the county to participate in that. So there'll be more than one day this year. There'll be, depending on how long they stay open, at least 3, possibly 4 Mondays that will happen, the local day.
Well, thank you, Mr. Administrator, and I understand that, because like I said, I knew it was a flood, or not a flood, I shouldn't say that, but it was a large amount of people that came in. It was just overwhelming, and that I understand, but
So
I'm happy to see that, if they're gonna do it on a Monday, or if it's possible in the negotiations, maybe we could do it, since if it's only gonna be 3 weeks, to make it fair for the whole county. I mean, there might not a lot of people that will come down from the upper north, but maybe in Glens Falls, but the heavily populated area of Queensbury and Glens Falls and Lake George, are going to jump on that. So I really appreciate you staying on those negotiations, but what we can do to open it up, to make sure the whole county's involved, and make it fair for all, especially the locals, Lake George, Queensbury, and Glens Falls, where the majority of the people will be coming from.
Any other comments for the administrator or attorney? Go ahead, Supervisor Kramer.
Thank you. 3, I guess, ice castles. I advocated for us to have a locals day or locals option. And I thought that was in the contract. So I was surprised to hear that it's only for certain residents, but glad to hear, Mr. Taplin, that you're working on that and making it available more often, because I think that will help disperse the crowds from the locals. Secondly, I have questions on some of the language of the floor resolutions, but I'll hold off on those.
The resolutions.
Yep. Another one is, I don't understand why we're bringing floor resolution 10 or 11 about the director position when we haven't even advertised it. So I'm going to be a no on that one. And then I do want to clarify just procedurally on our resolution index. It says that 3 and 4 are the property tax exemptions, but those are really, I think, for resolutions 5 and 6, and 3 and 4 have to do with Glens Falls. Could Ms. Allen, you just check me on that, and so I don't mess up when I'm going around later. The paper resolution 4 is the weighted vote
Yeah, you're right.
But on our index, it talks about the no exemption from real property.
You're right. On there, I'm looking at it now. On the index, they're
swapped.
yeah, because
Okay.
the one for the city of Glens Falls needs to go before, because that's gonna be adopted on February, well, hopefully. it'll be
Earlier,
adopted
okay.
on February 3rd.
All right,
So
so
they're misnumbered.
mark that down, everyone. Switch those around on your index.
Any other questions for the attorney or administrator? Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you. Just one quick question I forgot to ask you, Mr. Administrator. As it relates to the tourism, you said you put the ad out for that. And I know that you emailed me after asking our chairman of the tourism committee back in December publicly to see that job description, to talk about the salary study and to put a job announcement out. And, you know, I was told we'd see those documents. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you have experience in personnel and HR. My concern though is that does kind of deviate from a practice that we've had in the past where whether it be about assigned council or about tourism or about whatever direction the county goes in, that typically we're elected to represent the people. And if we're talking with them and communicating, we should have a good feel on what direction our community would like to go in. I just, for the record, would like it known that I didn't have that opportunity. I wasn't provided what was told to me would be provided. And I don't know if we're going back out. I hope we're going back out with it being posted in multiple areas, but I am wondering about the degree requirement. I'm hopeful that that is just a general degree requirement. That would have been one of my suggestions. So this is a really sought after position, as you know. This has been in the media. We've had some issues with our tourism director. Can you just, for the matter of the public record, since this decision was made by you, can you just talk about how you came to that and what it requires so that people are able to apply and how long that will be posted?
It'll be posted for 3 weeks, till the first week of February. It's being posted the Post Star has a new process they're using for job advertisements. We're posting it there on several of the tourism related boards. It'll be posted there. It's the same job description that was reissued that the committees approved the last one. So it's the same job description there. I looked at the degree requirements. It is pretty broad. I mean, they're talking about tourism and marketing and kind of business related. But we accept, last time we had about 40 applications, I believe, and I think we'll continue to get that great level and something that high with the interest. And
So there is no 4-year degree requirement, unlike the one earlier in the year. That was modified after we had an applicant apply who didn't meet the qualifications.
it was the one that was modified,
Okay.
and it has kind of an either or. You could have experience in lieu of a 4-year degree. Experience in
So any members of the community or anywhere that are interested would check our website or obviously inquire with HR or with you.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, thank you. The other thing for the administrator, for one, I'd like to go on the record and thank Joy Fountain for the years of service that she did for the assigned council, and she really ran a good department. That's a key and an essential department. It's a busy one for the amount of people that come into the county for unfortunate things that cannot afford attorneys and her review and being able to help us out. My concern is that it was brought up back late September, October of some reasons of why and possibly, and then she kind of gave notice that she'd be out at the end of the year. And I'm wondering why now we're advertising it for positions, and it's been, it's going to be open, and that might be, open for until we get it fulfilled. So who knows? But I'm just concerned of, why we didn't take action sooner on this, knowing that she was going to be leaving at the end of the year. I really can't, go after the administrator because you weren't here at that time, but you know, I'm just concerned of the process and now we're reaching out and sometimes it's just very confusing for me at some of the things that I see that happen. And, you know, especially, you know, Joy was really a phenomenal employee and dedicated. And, you know, I'm sad to see her leave. Real sad because like I said, that department's a very, important department in that side of the building. So
We
really just going on the record and, you know, like I said, and maybe this should be addressed to the acting administrator at the particular time, but I'm not here to make a fight. I'm just, I want to know why we're acting now and didn't act before.
So now. Go ahead.
Okay. We really, we were looking at the position, and considering options for for how we would fill it. And we actually at one point considered whether it would be an attorney that would fill the position or a non-attorney. And I think after a lot of discussion, we determined that it would be a non-attorney. And that's what we're working on a position description for. We'll move rapidly to fill this. We have an interim team in place that's handling everything down there. We have 2 part-time employees who have a really good handle on how to run the office. So I'm confident we're in good shape until we get someone in there to assume the role as the director.
Follow up, please. My concern is 3 months to make a decision on should it be an attorney or non-attorney. I'm just making a point. It's, you know, it confuses me. Sometimes, you know, things are overlooked and really, this is a particular thing that wouldn't have happened. You know, might have not have happened if someone would have, possibly adjusted the salary like some of the other employees and directors in the county. And I'm not putting words in the mouth, but from what I heard, that some of the other employees got in the budget. You know, we have one employee that got a $15,000 raise last year in between the stipend that we bumped everybody up and in the budget, another 8,500 and change, you know. How do I justify that to the taxpayers that, you know, a director gets a $15,000 raise in a year? I'm just baffled at that. And the job description hasn't changed. And then I have someone else that I fought for, along with another colleague of mine for 4 years. All right, that went above and beyond and outside her job purview and tried to get her a raise. And it was told, well, it's who's asking. That's kind of embarrassing. But she got, you know, or this particular employee got, you know, one of the smallest amount of raises. So I'm just really confused of what's going on and being a supervisor and not being informed, but I have to find out this afterwards, or I have to find out through the grapevine is very, it's really sad for a position where I sit here today. So thank you.
Mr. Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Administrator, I have a couple of questions. Who's we? You say we were determining the options and so forth. I thought that's a committee purview to determine what options when an employee is going to be leaving. So who's we? I'm confused. You say, well, we were determining the options. Well, who's we?
So I had discussions with the assigned counsel, had discussions with the public defender office because there are some rule changes that constituted whether something would be a conflict. And so there were a number of discussions there. And there were some discussions, I believe, at the committee, but I have to go back and look.
Okay, because it's my understanding that the committee should have been discussing the options or potential options and not two or three guys in a room, that's all. But hopefully in the future, you understand, I'm a firm believer that the committee should be involved with it, especially when there's such a high level individual and an opening occurring. I'm a little bit uncomfortable, nothing is true, but I'm a little bit uncomfortable when two or three people are sitting behind in a room determining, well, we're going to take a different option. And the committee's not even involved. That's all. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Reading of communications.
Capital District Regional Off-Track Betting Corp. Financial Report dated October 31, 2022. Fitzgerald Baker Morris Firth Notice of Public Hearing on CVE US EI 8 Quaker LLC project and Hodgson Russ Pilot Agreement for CHPE LLC project.
Reading of resolutions.
Proposed resolution numbers 9 through 37, 3 certificates of appointment and 2 proclamations were distributed to the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, January 17th. And posted to the Warren County website. This met the requirements of the rules of the board. The proclamations before you are number 1, Mental Wellness Month, and number 2, Blood Donor Month. There are also 12 floor resolutions, each of which requires a motion to bring to the floor. So a motion for floor resolution number 1, which is waiving the rules for number 2.
Somebody want to make a motion on floor resolution number 1? Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor Merlino, discussion. All those in favor?
You have a roll call vote on that?
Bring it to the floor?
Yeah.
Sure. Can we? Absolutely.
Okay, this is the motion to bring floor resolution number 1 to the floor. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
No.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yeah.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
I'll also be abstaining from all the votes today due to the fact that the Glens Falls contingency is still not fairly represented. For example, my colleague, Mr. Bruno, has 28 weighted votes. In reality, he's supposed to have 45. I think he's underrepresented. It's a clear fact. So I'm going to have to abstain on every vote today. That's why I'll ask for roll call votes. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon. Yes. Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay, that has 586 votes in favor, only 502 are required, so floor resolution number 1 is now on the floor as resolution number 38.
Okay. Next.
Motion to bring floor resolution number 2 to the floor.
Motion to bring floor resolution number 2 to the floor. Motion by Supervisor Runyon. Second, Supervisor Wild. Discussion? Is there a discussion? Supervisor Bramer.
Is this discussion on bringing it to the floor or the actual resolution?
This is discussion to bring it to the floor or
To
to
bring-
vote,
To bring it to the floor.
to bring it to the floor.
Thank
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Could we have a roll call vote?
Roll call, please.
Roll call?
Yes.
All resolutions, floor resolutions, please.
Okay. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
No.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Motion passes. Floor resolution number 2 is now proposed resolution number 39. Motion to bring floor resolution number 3 to the floor.
We have a motion by Supervisor Thomas, second by Supervisor Runyon. Discussion? Request a roll call vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, roll call.
Roll call vote.
Everyone can.
I already asked for it. Roll call.
Why would you take a vote first before the roll call vote?
Gonna do a roll call vote.
The motion to bring floor resolution number 3 to the floor. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yeah.
Oops. Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud, Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
So want to vote yes on this, but I'm abstaining.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Motion passes, and for resolution number 3 is now resolution number 40. Motion to bring floor resolution number 4 to the floor.
Motion by Supervisor Bramer. There was a second. Supervisor Runyon. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Are you doing a roll call on that one, or do you just?
Hmm?
No roll call on that one?
No roll call?
Hey, excuse me.
Roll call.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleague to my right from Queensberry had previously requested a roll call on all of these, waiving the rules.
I
and floor
tried to do that
resolutions.
and then he said, why didn't you do the other thing? So do we want a roll call vote on all these floor resolution? Can we?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yes.
Okay.
No one said no.
Okay, this is a motion to bring floor resolution number 4 to the floor. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yeah.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud, Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
And I wish I was a yes, I abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Floor resolution number 4 is now number 41. Motion to bring floor resolution number 5 to the floor.
Motion by Supervisor Runyon. Do we have a second? Supervisor Thomas, bring floor resolution number 5 to floor. Discussion, yes.
Yes, thank you. My understanding is that this is to set a public hearing. I get that, but I do not understand why we're trying to bring this from the floor. This is a topic about the exemptions for renewable projects that we've discussed in various committees. And we determined not to bring it forward. So while I understand that there's still some concerns there, especially about the pilot that just passed, I feel that this is a substantive discussion that we should have in committee. Send it back to the real property committee. That's where we talk about tax exemptions.
Can I second that?
I don't think you need to do that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, there is a lot behind this because of the state law and under NYSERDA. Perhaps the county attorney can explain again, or any one of us, of the particulars of why we are stepping out of these exemptions. Or the notice of, because if we don't reply within the 60 days, a company gets an automatic extension. This way, they need to come in and discuss.
Attorney.
You want
You want-
me to address? Yeah, it's simple. The current statute is set up so that all an applicant has to do is send in regular mail a letter that recites the relevant portions of the statute. And they have to send it to the chairman of the board. And if the county does not respond in writing that they are not going to allow the exemption under this statute, and they don't do it within 60 days, they automatically get it. It's set up in a manner, from my perspective as the county attorney, for the county to miss something. Because not only does this board then have to make a decision each and every time we get one of these letters, which we've been getting over the last year, we then have to make sure we get a response out by the deadline date of 60 days from the date that the letter was received. So it's set up for the county to stumble on a case-by-case basis. What the board decides to do, whether to decide to have a debate on this topic today as a body or send it to committee, that's certainly within the purview of the board. I felt it was necessary as the county attorney to bring it forward for action as soon as possible. Given the manner in which the state legislature has established this statute and the requirements the county has to jump to protect the ability to tax such a project.
Supervisor Wild, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a member of the IDA. There have been numerous discussions about this, whether it's pilots for solar or whether it's sales tax or mortgage tax adjustments. It's still not clear. But the problem is, if we don't do this, and I was going to bring this up if there was discussion from the committee chairs, is Economic Growth and Development discussed this. Many times we were waiting to find out what the rest of the towns felt like. But the problem is, if we don't do this now, as our attorney mentioned, we could slip up and someone will automatically get this exemption. So I think before we figure out whether or not we want to offer this, we should all decide, and I would recommend the towns consider this also, to say, let's opt out. And I'm going to ask the attorney, but I believe you can change your mind and opt back in and provide some benefits if it's something that we feel is appropriate. But right now, and if I'm not sure if you all read the Chronicle, but there was a big discussion in Washington County also about what to do with this. And I think that we should move forward with this. And then we have time to move back and back away from this. But right now, I think it's most imperative that we kind of follow some of the exemptions and some of the discussions that are going on and not automatically give these exemptions without some consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Brady.
Yeah, I definitely concur that I would be in favor of this. If I wasn't going to be abstaining. A perfect example is the local IDA, Warren, Washington IDA, just this past week, which I attended, basically is giving away millions of dollars in exemptions and abatements of county money. They voted to, of which we have 3 members on this board, they voted to do a sales tax abatement on the mortgage tax, which will cost Warren County $162,000. They had voted to give an abatement on the sales tax, which will cost Warren County $300,000. Now, $462,000, even in today's world, is a lot of money. But the IDA, Warren Washington IDA, against the town's will, against the school district's will, and unfortunately the county wasn't there. This was at the December meeting, but they voted over their concerns and objections basically to go forward with giving away all this money. Now, who gained from that then? School district in Queensbury is going to basically have to cough up a couple million, or not cough it up, or will lose out on 2 million. The town of Queensbury will lose out. Warren County will lose out 462,000. So who gained? Well, the Washington County IDA will get a check for $97,350. So there was somebody who won. All the tax abatements won. I find it almost if it wasn't such a tragedy. I was researching, I saw an article from the Senate report, New York State Senate, saying how the IDAs have run amok. And they were originally made and created in 1969 to entice manufacturing into an area by giving these abatements. But now only 26% of all these giveaways for manufacturing. Now it's become hotels and solar and anything else. So that report, which was in August of this past year, clearly says there's major problems with IDAs across the state, not just ours. And they're good people on it. I don't think they're doing anything. But when you start handing out blank checks basically and saying you don't have to pay your taxes on this, 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 and this, well, the other taxpayers in the county and the towns end up paying. So that's why the Queensbury School District has been at every meeting. they're not against solar, but they're against having the other taxpayers in Queensbury having to cough up a couple million because they're going to get the exemption. It's called a pilot, and they're going to get an exemption for 15 years on property tax. So it's a very, very major issue that I don't think anybody in the community fully grasp. Well, I wouldn't say anybody, but few do. And few on this board grasp. We're really giving away, we're giving the authority, well, in Washington County to give out hundreds of thousands, and in this case, $3 million. And there's not even a whimper. Yeah, oh yeah. Okay, Queensbury taxpayers, they'll pick it up. We'll make up the difference. Well, I represent Queensbury, and I'll tell you, now that people are starting to understand the magnitude of this, they are furious that we're giving these tax abatements and these relief to a company that won't have one employee. Remember, they're supposed to hire employees. They won't have one employee, and they won't create $1 in sales tax. So I want people to understand the magnitude of this. So I will be abstaining on this, but I'm definitely for it from a county standpoint there. Thank you.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you. As the supervisor from Queensbury said, this is a very complicated issue, and the devils are in the details of it. And what we're talking about here is about full exemptions or partial exemptions. And with pilots, you have a partial exemption. That's what Queensbury is getting. They are getting tax money through a pilot that otherwise they would not be receiving because of the issues we are dealing with on this resolution, and all towns should also pick up this resolution as well. So the information that was just presented by the supervisor from Queensbury is not 100% accurate, and there's more to it.
Supervisor Brown.
Thank you very much. It is a complicated issue. It's very complicated. I met with the county attorney and we're still looking at legal issues. That's why I really don't think that this is something we should just be whipping off the floor. It should go to committee, have everyone discuss it, flush it out, let our local communities have their say in it. And with respect to the pilot thing that just happened through the IDA, I think that was very troubling that they passed the pilot, even though we had said, we responded to the 60-day letter and said we wanted to be part of that process, and they did it without us anyway. So I don't even think, I think this is maybe an issue that the county attorney is still reviewing, but even if we do this opt-out, I think that there's a question as to whether the IDA still has authority to go on without us anyway. So why are we rushing, bringing this off the floor today when we've had multiple discussions in a committee meeting? My colleague has always said we should respect the committee process. Why are we not doing that here in this instance? There's no reason to rush. One more thing. This law 487 has been in place for years, if not decades, 20 years. So I don't feel like we have to rush and pull this off the floor today.
Doug, did you want to come?
Well, yeah, for the $2.5 million in forgiveness, yes, the supervisor from Chestertown is correct. The solar company will give $540,000 for $2.5 million in forgiveness. That's a pretty good deal where I come from. I don't know about your math, but my math, that's a pretty good deal. So the fact that it totals around $3 million in tax forgiveness over the county, 162,000, the town, the school district, that's significant money. That's real money, especially the Queensbury. So I just
Supervisor
wanted to
Thomas.
clarify.
This item was discussed at committee. It was brought before the personnel committee, I believe, probably around last September. And I believe that the committee discussed it for probably 45 minutes, and then it was referred to the economic development committee. So to say that it's just popping off the floor here is kind of inaccurate. As far as the topic itself, maybe it should go back to committee. If you want me to table it, I'd be more than happy to table both of them, 5 and 6.
I'll second that.
The motion and second to table, what is it?
Full resolutions.
Or resolution number 5.
They're tabling 5 and 6.
5 and
5
6.
and 6, yeah.
Okay.
Are they tabling this matter to committee or back?
Whether you want to send it back to committee, Frank? Supervisor Thomas, back to committee.
Which committee?
Which one?
Economic development.
Take a pick, either real property or economic development. One or the other.
Economic development.
What do you have?
Okay, maybe we can have a joint economic development and real property tax committee meeting to discuss it.
But it was discussed, it has been discussed,
We have a motion to table. Do we have
so
discussion?
don't act like it's just popped up.
The
Floor.
consensus was that we would let it go on a case by case basis.
Supervisor,
Why do I have to be argued with? Don't you talk to the chair?
Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question before we get off this. Does this have any effect on residential solar? In other words, they get exemptions for resident.
No, none whatsoever.
Thanks.
This is commercial. Only,
Limited to that.
these are commercial projects.
Very good. Thank you.
Do we just do a collective vote or do we have to do a roll call? Okay. We'll do it. Any objection to a roll call vote on motion to table? None. We'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, this is a motion to table for resolutions 5 and 6 back to the Economic Growth and Development Committee. Mr. Diamond,
Yes, I'm voting the table.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson, absent, Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
absent, Mr. Beatty,
I'm gonna abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes,
Okay, it has 679 votes in favor, so the motion to table does pass.
okay. Next,
Okay, just one moment. So motion to bring floor resolution number 7 to the floor.
the opioid motion by Supervisor Runyon. Second by Supervisor Brainer. Discussion. Roll call vote. Okay,
Motion to bring floor resolution number 7 to the floor. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Excuse me,
Bramer.
I thought we were doing the left hand on all four resolutions.
We haven't already done-
we are. Yeah.
Sorry.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yeah.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yeah.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes,
Okay, that has 590 votes in favor. So floor resolution number 7 is now resolution 42. Motion to bring floor resolution 8 to the floor.
we have a motion. Motion by Supervisor Driscoll, second by Supervisor Bramer. Any discussion? Request for a roll call? Yes,
Okay, floor resolution number 8 to the floor. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes. Yes.
Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
absent, Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Like absent, Chairman Garrity.
yes,
Okay, that's 596 votes in favor, so it passes. Resolution, floor resolution number 8 is now resolution 43. Motion to bring floor resolution 9 to the floor.
we have a motion. Motion by Supervisor Runyon, second by Supervisor Thomas. Discussion? Roll call vote?
Okay. Motion to bring floor resolution number 9 to the floor. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Same.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes,
Okay, there are 596 votes in favor, so floor resolution number 9 is now proposed resolution number 44.
Mhm.
Motion to bring floor resolution number 10 to the floor.
we have a motion by Supervisor Runyon, second by Supervisor Wild, discussion. Roll call vote.
I'm sorry, can I?
Discussion?
Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. Sorry. Just on this one, number 10, floor resolution. My understanding is that it's authorizing our body to request the legislature to enact a bill. That doesn't necessarily mean that we would go forward then with the extension of the mortgage tax. It would just give us the authority to do so by extending the state law bill. State law authorization. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And so we'll, at some point during this year, have a discussion about whether or not we want to extend or continue on with our mortgage tax.
It would require a local law. So there will certainly. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you.
It requires a local law to move forward with the extension.
thank you.
Any other discussion? Let's vote.
Motion to bring floor resolution number 10 to the floor. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes,
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Wild. Okay. Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Same.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay, those are 596 votes in favor, so floor resolution number 10 passes is now proposed resolution number 45. Motion to bring floor resolution number 11 to the floor.
Motion by Supervisor Runyon. There's a second. No second. Second by Supervisor Dixon, bring for resolution number 11 to the floor. Discussion. Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, I kind of brought this up a little before and I'm just a little confused. Nothing to do with the person, but the position. And I'm having a little hard time understanding this because I sit on the committee and what was discussed. Now, from my understanding and from what I've got out of the committee is that we created this new position due to the fact that we put out an application because we knew the director would be retiring. And we got nothing in return. So we rewrote it and offered a little bit more money to entice someone to apply for this position. I believe that was what I got out of the committee meeting. And then to find out that we have the director retiring and he was going to stay on to help in transitioning some projects and help the new director, fit in and because it's kind of a evolving department. So to turn around and have the director retire and then to be rehired to retire at a certain salary and come back for a much larger salary for pretty much from what I see in a simple aspect is pretty much the same position. How can I go out and tell the taxpayers, look, this, when they call and say, well, what is this? How does this happen? I mean, you go from an $82,000 to $108,000 salary for pretty much the same position. Now, if I'm getting this wrong, please inform me. On top of that, all right, being retired, you're in the retirement fund and being over 65, that $35,000 allotment doesn't come into effect. So you get a full-time retirement and a larger salary. So there's a possibility that the director will say, hey, look, I'll stay on. And this has nothing to do with the employee. It's how do I answer to the taxpayers that this happened? And come to find out it was put into budget. And I'm just really confused.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not a higher, the individual who is going into the position is going in at the same salary level that they currently have. So there isn't a big increase in salary going into this position.
Well, from what I get out of the November 22nd Economic and Growth and Development Committee, right? It is from what I see, and from what I understand and looking back, there is a big increase in the salary. So if you're going to be putting someone back into that position, doesn't that salary, because it sounds like the budget officer is already put that into the budget. And from what I see, it goes from like, 80. Well, the notice of intent to fill the vacant position for $107,637. And the other notice of intent to fill the position, all right, is pretty much where the director is pretty much now at $81,600. So am I confused or am I missing this?
I believe that salary that you saw was the salary set at the previous position that the individual was in. However, they'd been in that position for a long period of time and had received increases, and their salary was the 107 amount that you see that reflected in the budget, and that's the salary that the individual. So there was not a pay increase when the individual went, if he goes into this job. It's just a.
So I'm a little confused then. I got it backwards. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is the budgeted amount for the director position is the same salary that the individual who we would like to appoint into that position was receiving in the previous position that they had. So there's not a salary.
What's the higher amount?
Was the higher amount already.
So I am a little confused. I got it backwards.
I have to go back and look at that position, the previous position he was in, and see the salary level on that. But I think that's the salary level of the position we would hire someone into.
Okay, so I guess my question is retiring at a certain salary and we're rehiring for a higher salary because that's the salary we discussed in committee, which I remember we doing. And I guess my question is to the board does this sound fair? And how do we answer to our taxpayers that see this? How can I say, hey, look, I'm going to retire and then I'm going to come back on for more money? I mean, does that happen in the private sector? I don't know. I don't think so. So I'm a little confused. And like I said, it really has nothing to do with any individual. It's just the process of what we're doing. And it sounds a little sneaky to me. And that's not what I took out of committee on November 22nd.
I'll address the salary. If the 2022 budget on the salary was $101,917. The individual got a $5,700 raise when the raises went through. So that comes to the 107. That's the current salary he's in now. And
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
and then I do believe that he was going to stay into that position until the work is done on Countryside Adult Home. I thought this was all agreed upon by committee. I believe this is all came out of committee and the position was put into the budget.
That's what I got out of the committee, but from, I was just confused when I saw the two different numbers.
Okay.
So so we get this clear. So with this notice of intent to fill this position, because I thought it was brought up in committee, is that we weren't able to fill this business. We didn't get any applications for this position at the 81,000.
Supervisor Thomas wishes to.
Yes, this was a request of the Director of Planning at budget time was to do this, was to create this position that that we're looking to put him into and then separate the department into basically two categories. And he was going to be in this position until, like the chairman said, until Countryside is finished, the project is finished. And that's my understanding of why this is in front of us. So I don't know, there's been a lot of accusations here, so I don't know.
Yeah.
That's right. Another thing I'd like to say is a point of order. We're talking about a resolution to waive the rules. And we're off on some other tangent here.
Oh, Scott, sorry.
I wish we would stick to the what we're working on.
We're talking about a resolution. Anybody else on the resolution so we can vote? Supervisor Seaver?
Are we going to have an opportunity to address the substantive nature of this resolution?
Sure, when we talk about resolutions, we're trying to,
So this is to waive it to come off the floor, and right after this, we'll have that discussion.
I have to open up the public comment and comment from supervisors on any
So
resolution.
you will permit to go back to have discussion on this. My objection to waiving the rules and the standing rules for this is simply that this is again, a creation of a brand new position. And therefore, the standing rules, it should be a 2/3. So I would absolutely be opposed to bringing this off the floor.
Let's vote, roll call vote.
Okay, this is on the motion to bring floor resolution number 11 to the floor. Excuse me, Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
No,
Mr. Bruno,
Yeah.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
yes,
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver, Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay, there are 586 votes in favor, so that passes.
Okay.
So floor resolution number 11 is now proposed resolution number 46. The motion to bring floor resolution number 12 to the floor.
Motion by Supervisor Runyon. Supervisor Leggett on the second. Discussion?
Yep.
Go ahead, Super.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, as you know, that this is all part of a reorganization of a department where a longtime department head is leaving, has resigned. And in order to leave this department, the planning department, much stronger, there has been discussion in how best to do position titles, et cetera.
Order, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead. Super.
and stand, because I know that's a point of contention. My point of orders here is similar to my colleague from Stony Creek. The only thing we should be debating right now is why this shouldn't come off the floor according to the rules. If I brought back my comments to wait for my turn to have a debate on number 46 now, so should Supervisor from Chester.
I'm willing to wait for whenever, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
You want to roll call on that?
Roll call?
Yes, please.
On the motion to bring floor resolution number 12 to the floor. Mr. Diamond,
Yes. And could I ask for a roll call on this particular resolution at that time? Thank you.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy. Oh, sorry, he's left. Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan.
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Beat you to the punch.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah.
Ms. Runyon.
Yeah.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
putting on the motion to bring floor resolution 12 to the floor.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. Okay, there are 643 votes in favor, so that passes, and floor resolution number 12 is now proposed floor resolution number 47. We did have a request for a roll call on every resolution. Is there any objection to one roll call vote for resolutions 9 through 23?
Oh, wait a sec.
We have a minute.
I'm not that far there yet. I'd like a,
No.
Yes, we just- The clerk is asking if we could combine 9 through 23 as one roll call vote.
Oh, 9. I'm good for that.
No. I'm not good with that.
Imagine that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dickinson. Did you have a comment?
No, I was talking to myself.
All right.
Let's get back to business, please.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is a procedural question, probably for our attorney, if you don't mind. But I'm confused. A number of my peers from representing the town of Queensbury are abstaining, and I believe it's because of the weighted vote of Glens Falls. And I'm not sure if I should be doing the same. Because it might be that it's an illegal vote. Could I get someone to weigh in on that and help me understand whether or not this is a legal vote or not?
Thank you. There is absolutely positively no legal reason that any member of this board cannot vote on any matter that's coming before the board today, that came before the board at the organizational meeting, or comes before the board at any future meeting prior to and if the proposed local law restructuring the weighted votes for Glens Falls passes.
So for
Under
clarity,
the
there's no
statute-
there's no
under the
reason I should.
statute, there is no violation that's occurring by this county board based on the prior numbers versus what the numbers became theoretically as of January 1st of 2023 for the city of Glens Falls. So there's no reason, there's no legal reason for any member not to vote. And that's the only topic I can address.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, County Attorney. My question then becomes, there's nothing that bars the supervisor from abstaining from a vote if they're not comfortable, correct?
There's absolutely no reason a supervisor cannot choose to take any action to include not participating in an action that comes before the board.
So to be clear then, if it was my decision, and it has been my decision, that when I look at the weighted votes from last year and I compare them to this year, recognizing that the election was certified in November and we had time to be able to prepare this, and we did not on behalf of our county for whatever reason, for whomever's responsibility, then we get to this point where now many votes are very close, whether it be 2/3 or whether it be a simple majority. So now changing all the weighted votes to 45 for each member of Glens Falls does have the potential of significantly changing an outcome of a vote. And because of that reason, I think that people work very hard to be informed about who their elected representatives are. And I have had a very good working relationship with my colleagues from Glens Falls, but I would hope that if the tables were turned and it was Queensbury, you would be supporting us as well on this. So at the end of the day, it is my opinion and my decision, where I understand I'm not legally required. And I believe I've already stated this, but since it's coming back up, to abstain. There's nothing wrong with that, correct?
Legally, this cannot happen in Queensbury because the supervisors at large by definition and structure all
Good point.
receive the same weighted vote
Thank you.
as a matter of law. As to any other
Yep.
points raised by the supervisor, they're not within the realm of a legal area.
Thank you for that clarification.
Supervisor Brady.
Thank you. So if a resident of the county challenged one of these votes that was closed based on incorrect or old weighted votes, I surmise they would win. Now, it would have to be a vote that would have changed, but they would win. And that's where I think people don't understand. So close votes could change one way or the other depending on the weighted votes. And that's why we're using a weighted system that is outdated, that the city of Glens Falls went to a new system. And that could change the outcome of certain votes that we have done today. That's why I'm abstaining. I don't want to be part of that challenge by a resident or a numerous resident saying, hey, how about that vote? There was only 20 votes difference. And if so-and-so had the correct amount, that would have passed or not passed. That's why I'm abstaining.
Okay,
Thank you.
public comment on the resolutions?
Call though. You don't want my roll call?
We have a roll
I
call.
don't know, roll call, but-
You're not okay with that, Doug? I was good if you just did a roll call on 9, 13, 22, and 23 and combine the others.
We're gonna do a roll call on everything.
Okay.
Public comment, please.
What?
And I'll want to allow the public to weigh in.
Travis Whitehead, Queensberry. Before I get into this, there are a lot of things said about real property tax law 487. Some of it was correct, some of it was incorrect. Mr. Ellman, put it very nicely, saying, seems like it was implemented.
Mr. Chairman.
Order public.
It's a public comment.
What's? Hold on,
Is this germane to the vote that's before us?
yes. I feel it is.
We don't have. a-
At
Discussing on resolutions for
Okay, so well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Leggett. At any rate, I'm just trying to clarify that real property tax law 487, which has been here for many years, was implemented basically well, as an opinion, I guess, as Mr. Ellman said, that to trip you up. If you let this notice sit on your desk for 60 days, as was the case actually in Queensberry, the town of Queensberry, you basically don't have any recourse to negotiate any taxes to be put in a pilot. However, if you opt out, it certainly doesn't say I'm not going to take a solar project. What it says basically is what Mr. Ellman said after your resolution is that we want to negotiate. So they'll be forced to negotiate. So there really is no problem, opting out in that regard, no matter what you want to do with the solar project. If you might think that you want to give them everything, nothing, depending on where they want to locate, might be different. You have that option is yours. The problem is that more recently than the decades that Ms. Bramer was speaking about, the solar companies decided that they could go to the local IDAs, an end around on this, had nothing to do with this 487, a different way to attack it. And that's what happened here. Mr. Ellman said, I want to negotiate. You'd think that with 487, that would proceed, but they just abandoned that route, went to the IDA, and now the IDA can not only give a pilot on property taxes, but they can also do things like mortgage tax and sales tax. So it was the solar companies around the state that have been hitting these IDAs. Many of the IDAs in the state put together resolutions saying, we feel that this should be a local issue and we won't get involved. Now, the interesting thing is our IDA, your IDA, said the same thing in a resolution in 2018 and never rescinded that resolution. Yet they went ahead and at the public hearing with the town there and with the school district there, both saying we would like to negotiate. Mr. Stroud was saying we'd like to do 50%. They didn't even get to the point of what the school district might want. But they both said we have objections here. We'd like to negotiate. And the IDA voted unanimously to ignore that, even though they have a policy in place that says that they will respect what would have, it's amazing. But what I wanted to warn you here is that when you decide to opt out, you should not only opt out on real property tax law 487, but you should consider opting out on what's called Appendix N at the IDA, because the IDA has an opt-out list as well. And this county is not on it. There are only 3 taxing districts in the entire county. You got to look at schools, you got to look at towns. Each one has to do it individually. So if you run a town, you ought to also consider, and you ought to be talking to your superintendents also, to consider opting out on and being added to Appendix N on the IDA, because that is another way to get you. So I just wanted to take a minute to say that. The other thing that I wanted to address was Resolution 22. And I put something together here I'd like to read for you. You're being asked today to choose your representatives on the Warren Washington IDA. Please think a bit more than those same representatives thought about approving the theft of about $450,000 from your budget next year. They granted no sales tax, no mortgage tax for yet another solar field in Queensbury. I've been told there were 6 in the works at this point. I said the word theft because it fits. These 3 people, which sit among you today, never addressed this body about what they were about to do, as a thief would. You will never see that revenue in your lifetime. And when this field is dismantled in 15 years or so, the value on the tax rolls, which have been slashed by about 80% for those 15 years, will go back to raw land value, if you're lucky that the Chinese-made solar panels don't leave a mess. The blame for this starts with the solar company and the WWIDA chairman and their highly paid CEO. They did the bulk of the work before the vote. They did not present a balanced assessment. The documents presented at the public hearing and much of the verbal praise was false and misleading. Your 5 candidates did not know, they did not do their due diligence, but instead trusted what they heard. I'm no longer a member of that body, but I saw the lies and brought much of it to their attention at the public hearing. At the public hearing, which 2 of these 3 supervisors did not attend. You would have heard both the town and the school plainly state their opposition. If they were more aware of their jobs, they would have remembered that while not reminded by the chair or the CEO, that they had an established policy to allow the local taxing districts to deal with this onslaught of incentives and citing requests, rather than getting involved themselves. That policy stands today, but yet they took it out of the hands of the school and the hands of the town and the hands of the county. This very body by resolution a year ago asked the county attorney to negotiate, but he sent a letter out within the proper time span and was ignored. And instead, the solar company shopped around, found the IDA. Did any of these 3 members sitting here ever bring it to your attention? Now the IDA gets no direct funding. But when you have a CEO that's paid $125,000 a year, that becomes a problem. The problem is solved with fees that the solar company will now pay the WWIDA instead of the 3 taxing districts. Approximately $100,000 for a reduction in $3 million in taxes. That's not a good deal for anyone except the solar company and maybe the CEO. And those are the people that presented the facts to the board. So you would think you would need to do some due diligence. But mistakes are made by all of us. And the true character of a man is seen in how he handles those mistakes. Should first admit the mistake and then try to rectify it. The pain of that will be remembered the next time a similar situation arises. You learn by your mistakes unless you claim there was no mistake or it's too late now. Ask your 3 members if they understand the difference between 10,000 cars and 1,300 cars, or 14,000 acres of trees compared to 2,000 acres of trees. They know what I'm talking about, because those are some of the lies they heard. And once you find one lie, there's a high probability there are more. This is the next Siemens, a project that will live in infamy and brought to you by yet another WWIDA member that you're being asked to vote for in Resolution 22, Nick Caimano. So I ask today, so I ask that you ask your 5 candidates, was this a mistake? And are you ready to fix it? Is this going to cost the town of Queensbury and particularly the school district a great amount of money? So far, the answer I've gotten back, the feedback I've gotten back is the answer is no. It's a done deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on resolutions? Saw some hands over here on discussion on resolutions.
Well, earlier Supervisor Bruno had a comment.
Supervisor,
Thank
you,
Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank my colleagues from Queensbury for supporting Glens Falls. I'm not too happy to be being put in the position that I'm in, whether to vote or not to vote or abstain through no fault of my own. So I'd like to thank my colleagues, and I'm very disappointed in this whole system that seems to have failed. Correct me if I'm wrong, when the redistricting, if you will, the revamping of the wards of Glens Falls was approved, and then it's not followed up as it should have been. I believe it was supposed to go to the Secretary of State for approval and then come here, whatever. I just, as you can tell, I'm not too happy, but thank you.
thank you. Any other discussion? Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Mr. Whitehead. That was a nice presentation. Not that I am knocking, but I have I sit on the Queensbury Planning Board, and we've had a lot of solars, and I do believe in reaching toward the solar so we can get off of some of the fossil fuels for our power. One of the only problems I have with light solar, it's really a daily power source. I'd like to see some more 24-hour power sources, because I think the next thing that's going to be coming down the road with these power sources, if we keep going with these panels in that, is battery storage. It's batteries that are going to store that power for the evening use. My major really concern is, you know, how much is the amount of money that you can make off of power, and I put this to the fact is, look at a Canadian company that is going to be running a line all the way down through Champlain, all the way down to New York City to supply power to New York City. Now, let's just take out the factor of how much that electrical cable is going to cost, because we're not talking a real mix, you know, 14.2 here. I mean, that's a serious chunk of wire.
Thank you.
And you know, and being above land and below land, but all the way down there. But I want you to think of just what the costs are just for the railways. You know, and all that goes in here. So, you know, we're giving tax abatements, you know, especially my highest bill in Queensbury is the school. And you know, I'm limited of what I can make in those times. Well, you know, I am self-employed, but I mean, you can only, most of us can only make so much unless we change jobs. So here we have an identity coming in that has a potential to make good money, and we're taking it away to burden our taxpayers ourselves. And I have a problem with that. But you know, just in perspective of what Mr. Whitehead says, and, you know, and like I said, due to the fact that I'm abstaining today, does not mean that I'm not in favor of some of these, but it's really is making a point to understand that we really need to get things together here and get our timing down right. Thank you.
Supervisor Seaver, you had your hand up.
I do. Did you want me to, I have 3 resolutions that I'd like to talk about. You want me to go one by one?
Go ahead.
You want to take one and then open it up,
Go
or?
ahead.
My first one would be 47, which is now 47 and 46. And so I do have 2 others after you close debate on these 2 topics. They're related, from what I understand, if I numbered these correctly. They're both related to the appointment to the Director of Planning. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I have them right?
Yep.
So I went back and I looked at the organization and staff, the report that was given out to us from the planning department. I think it was last year. and I'm happy to give this to the county administrator in case you haven't been given this whole booklet with the organizational chart. But my concern, and I have some very specific questions about this. In 2022, what was the salary of the county planner, which we all have referred to as the director of planning for many years?
County planner in the 2022 budget, 101,917.
What is it? 101?
101,917. But
101,917. That was,
And then we gave the
Then-
50.
you got the $5,700 raise on top of it.
Plus the raises. Okay, and in 2021, do we have that?
Yep. One sec.
Normally I'd ask all this through committee, but since we didn't have a vote on creating a new position, I have that opportunity.
In the 2021 budget, county planner was 96,067.
96,060. So is that the end of the year or the beginning of the year
That's the adopted budget.
for 2021?
Yeah, so if there were any adjustments throughout 2021, I don't have those.
Okay, so in 2021, the director of planning was 96. And then in 2022, the director of planning goes to 101 plus the raises, which brings us to the 107. Is that correct? So we're now at 107, so my question becomes then, you've got this resolution requested for a retroactive date of January 1st. I'm concerned, number one, that it's retroactive, which tells me that there was a step we should have taken that we didn't take. And number two, what is the position of the county planner now going to pay that this person is being promoted into a newly created position that we haven't advertised and voted on other than the budget?
You have the 80.
Because it's my understanding, the county planning job description still has the responsibilities of being the director. I know you're modifying that, you're gonna change it, take it out, so that whoever gets put into the county planning position will no longer be the director of planning, because that will now be this individual's job. Am I good so far? Right. Okay, so, yeah, so now what I'd like to know is what is that county planner position going to be?
81,000.
81,600.
81,600. So we've created a new position, taken a county planner, which theoretically was around an $81,000 position, turned it into a director position for 107. Retroactive to January 1st. And then we're going to put someone else, I assume, promote from within or advertise into a county planner who won't direct the department at 81. Who will be our full-time staff? It was my intention. I was told that this position was going to retire on 128. Was that an incorrect date?
I'm going to defer to Supervisor Wild. He was chairman of that committee.
The question is actually to our county administrator, not to the supervisor from Queensberry. I went to that committee meeting. I've watched it on YouTube. I've read the minutes. I'd like to know what the discussion is regarding a retirement date. Are we putting an individual retroactively into a January 1 position that will only turn around and retire?
The planned retirement date, I believe, is the end of January.
Okay.
And at that time, with this board's approval, we would appoint that person into the director position. And they would perform in that position to transition the planning department into what we hope to be. The plan was that it's a expanded responsibilities and they're going to, we're going to do more in the planning department. The director will has agreed to remain in place until we finish the
Okay.
grants and they work at county side, which is probably going to happen in June. And at that time, we would plan to have someone taking that director's place through an advertisement. And there would be a transition and the director would go back into retirement.
in July. So I'm so sorry, let me just follow this. So we've expanded the job description and the duties. You just said that this position is more expansive, this director of planning, but we kept the salary the same from the county planner position in developing the director position. So even though they're going to have more responsibilities, you've kept the salary, which is already extreme. I'm not arguing for a higher one, at 107,000.
The 107,000 currently is what the
County planner.
county planner was getting.
Okay.
But the county planner job is going to be advertised at 81,600.
600.
But the new position, this director position, is also 107.
There's only one position at
Right.
107 right now, the director.
The director.
One position.
You just said it was expanded duties and that's why we created this new position, but it doesn't come with more salary. Clearly, it's got a lot of salaries. So then he retires or she retires. Well, his name's on here. Mr. Lamont retires at the end of January. And it is the intention then to move him into the position in full retirement status. So just to be clear, will he make 107,000 in this position retired?
Yes, he would.
Okay, so we've got someone retiring from the same exact position that he's in already. But more duties as of effective January 1, but he's going to retire, do the same exact job from the municipality that he already retired from and get paid a full retirement because he's over the age of 65. So our taxpayers are on the hook for quite a bit of money, plus the retirement. I understand the days in terms of benefit days will be a little different upon retirement. But the point being is that the state has generally frowned upon individual coming back to do the same exact duties, which is why I assume this was already altered to expand the duties, even though the salary isn't changed. What I'm saying is, I don't think that the public is going to receive this that well. This was all done as a simple intent to fill, which highlights completely underscoring the issue that we have about the 2/3 majority. Had we had this discussion in a 2/3 majority, we would not be hashing it out at a full board meeting. We would be, and by the way, the budget didn't pass with a 2/3 majority. So if the idea is that all these new positions are going to be a 2/3, the budget didn't even pass with the 2/3. So I think it's really disingenuous to the voters and the taxpayers of this county and to us as supervisors to have this workaround backdoor deal where someone is going to then retire from service and get $107,000 full salary in their retirement. I have to believe that we could advertise these positions well in advance and find people that are qualified and willing at 107,000. The problem before was at 80 something and we couldn't get anyone. So this has been, I'm really very, very much opposed to this. I will be abstaining, but I'm asking other people on this board to also say, this doesn't sound right. Whether you agree with me personally or not should not matter. You should represent your constituents. And at the appropriate time, after this discussion is closed, I do have 2 other resolutions I'd like to talk about, but I'm sure you want to debate this first.
Supervisor Brady.
Thank you. Along that same topic, I've got 3 reasons why I'm very opposed to this. Number one is this county never has positions go away. I won't say never, very seldom does it, once it's created, it doesn't go away. You can give me a date of July, I'm not buying it. They don't go away. Let's be honest with each other. They don't go away. Number 2, we didn't even pull out applications for this newly created job. Number 3 is we're not doing the 2/3 vote to create a new position. And I even heard it today. The employee asked that we create a new position for him. Well, hey, any employee can ask to create a new position and we go and do it. This makes no sense on so many levels to me that I'm going to be abstaining. But we do no justice to the taxpayers of Warren County. And no one, I don't think in this room can explain it to the average Joe on the street on why this makes good sense. So, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. We've been here almost 3 hours and it's about 32 degrees over here. I'm kind of shivering. I want to talk a little bit more detail about resolution 47 that my colleagues have brought up here. And I do have some questions in regards to that. There's been some dialogue about the salary structure. And I would ask Amanda to pull up on page 97 of the salary schedule. The appropriate positions that have been funded in that salary schedule. If I'm correct,
2023.
yes, if I'm correct, and correct me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. During the process of review for the budget, I don't believe at that time, the county planner came in to represent the planning department. And I don't know if he requested a new position in that department called the Department of Community Development and Planning. Did he request a position for that?
You're talking about in the adopted budget.
If you go into the salary schedule on page 97, I believe that wasn't a request of his. It was zeroed out, but consequently, through the budget process, this job was created. It's called the Community Development, the Planning and Community Development Director. Funded at $107,637. Now, the gentleman that was serving in the county planner's position we're about to appoint to this community development / planning position has worked for the county for over 30 years. Done a great job. He's collecting his retirement. I figure his retirement's probably close to $50,000 to $50,000 a year. So if you look at that from that perspective, which I have to, and add the 107,000, we're at about $167,000. There's also some questions around unused sick time. I believe he's going to cash out unused sick time to the tune of 25 days as of the first of the year. 5 of those days have been carried over from 2022 to 2023. But changing his job title, now he's eligible to earn 15 more sick days through the calendar year as becoming a department head. So now you go from 25 that unused that he's earned as of the first and becoming a department head, he's eligible to 15 additional sick days. So that's about 40 sick days a year. He's eligible for it.
Jack, Supervisor Diamond, should we not, if we're gonna discuss personnel,
Well,
personal time, should we not go into executive session?
No, I think the public needs to understand what's going on. I'm not criticizing them. I'm just telling you what the process is and rolling, so the public can understand exactly what's occurring here. I mean,
I'll ask my colleagues, should we not be going into executive session, to discuss
I
benefits
think
paid to
I'm not criticizing, I'm just pointing out some facts.
Okay,
That's all, that, the guy would be eligible for approximately 40 sick days in the calendar year. I can't wholeheartedly support this appointment today. And I'm explaining to the public and I'm explaining to my colleagues why I cannot support this. I think we're just
okay.
feeding too much at the trough in this particular time, specifically when last year in 2022, we heard from CSEA and all of the other unions about pay scale and adjustments. We had people come here to say that they were collecting social services and they were full-time employees because they didn't make enough money. And I wholeheartedly, like everybody on this board, supported that initiative to increase everybody's salary. But this is just too much more money. I just can't agree to create this position and hire this guy.
Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, that this reorganization of the planning department was brought up during budget season and it went through committee. And we are now here mostly because, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this one step that we're taking today, that's before us today, should have been done back when we did these other things. That as a fact, the individual is filling this position and is carrying out these duties. And even if we did not change job title, we'd be working at the salary level as it is. So this is one of those things that happen in these transition of departments to be able to get things set up. Who's going to fill in? What's the best use of this department? We all recognize that the planning department is a very busy and very valuable department to us with a lot of staff, and we hope to keep that level of professionalism up by creating an organizational structure that will attract good planners that will be able to carry on the legacy. So the individual that is in question here would be making this at the director of planning title if we did not reorganize. And that this is all part of a larger transition of the planning department, the organizational schedule to get these titles right. So it's set up for years to come.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. Yes, I understand the need to reorganize the structure at the planning department. I think that's all fine. And I want to be clear that I respect Mr. Lamoth and everything that he's done. He's done a ton for the county. I absolutely get that. And I would like him to stay on. You know, I don't want to delve into personal issues as to why he's retiring. If he stayed on, that would be one thing, but to have him retiring in a few weeks and also to be appointing him to this other director position retroactively, why are we doing it when he retires and bringing him on? I don't understand exactly why we're doing this and why we aren't planning more into the future. Like, where is the notice of intent to bill? Where's the job application information, the postings about county planner and this director position? You know, I just don't think that Mr. Lamoth should be going into retirement mode, technically retiring and then coming back on as our full-time director. It just doesn't seem fair to me, to the county and to the staff there. I mean, I'm sure everything will still run fine. I can't go along with this. And the argument about Countryside staying on for that, it just doesn't make sense to me. Countryside has been closed for a long time. I'm sure there's still going to be things dragging on forever, really, for a very long time. So that doesn't make sense to me either. And the fact that he's doing the work and we want to pay him for it, I get that. I just wish we would also see that in a fairness perspective for what's happening in the tourism department. There has been an individual there who has been serving as the director for a long time and we haven't paid him the salary of the director,
Crazy.
even though he's filling the role.
We tried last.
We didn't try, Mr. Colleague from Chester. We tried to pay him a different salary for some other temporary position. We didn't pay him the director's salary, even though he's doing all the work.
To this resolution.
Yes, I will
Supervisor
stop.
Wild.
Mr. Chairman, it'd be great if more attended the Economic Growth and Development committees that I chaired. This was discussed in detail, not in just one meeting, but in multiple meetings. We have tried to hire a replacement for the majority of last year. And everyone here knows, why did we give the salary increases to our existing staff? Because they were so low, we couldn't attract the people to come work for the county. Now, this change is a title change. It's not a responsibility change. This person has been the director of planning, which include our GIS, our Geographic Information Systems. All we're doing is restructuring the staff beneath him, that GIS is now separate from planning. But we still have a person over the top that is kind of still helping the leaders of GIS and planning grow, understand all the nuances that our current director has gained over the 30+ years of his career. At the same time, we've always hired back people to help as retirements have occurred. Whether or not that's right or wrong, it's happened. It's happened in the 5 years that I've been on this board. I can't even count how many times that happens. It's the way it works here. It's the way the process continues, and it allows us to continue to provide the services to our constituents. Saying no to this, what are we going to say? No, this gentleman should retire. Right? And then we stop providing some of the services and we lose his expertise. There's millions of dollars that come in every year from this planning department that come to the county and to the individual towns. So to just toss this aside and say it's not right, I think we need to look at the consequences associated with this also. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I don't want to
Supervisor
do this any
Runyon.
longer.
Thank you. I would just like to say that there's nothing anywhere that says you cannot retire and still work. And this man is probably the most qualified person for the job.
Any other discussion? Supervisor Seaver
Thank
and
you.
Supervisor Stroud.
After speaking with the head of civil service and with the county administrator, there are conditions where someone can retire, but come back on a limited basis. Those waivers were removed during COVID. And there's pressure for the governor's office to bring that back so that someone can't retire and come back and get their full salary plus their full retirement. But when you're doing it from a municipality, with or without that waiver, those restrictions, it's still age dependent. So that is exactly what's happening here. And frankly, the way it works here is what I just heard from my supervisor from Queensberry. Perhaps it shouldn't be the way that it works here. Perhaps we should worry about what the public would like done with their tax dollar. And this process should have been a much more transparent process with a 2/3 vote and a much lengthier discussion. So I disagree. I don't think it should work like that here.
Thank you. Supervisor Stroud.
No, thank you. I have to agree 100% with Supervisor Wild. We're darn lucky to have Wayne come back with his expertise, his knowledge, and help transition this planning department, which is fundamentally important to this county. And they all do a wonderful job at this department, and it needs to expand. So I just want them to hear the message that the director and all the personnel in the planning department, I know they work very hard. They're some of the best in New York. And I want to thank them. And I think we need to approve this and go forward. Thank you.
Any other discussion on any other resolutions? Supervisor Beatty, any other resolutions?
Well, I wanted to make another comment here. I hear from my constituents, they're discussing double dipping. That's what they say, double dipping. That means when you retire, then you come back and you work again in the same position or something. So I hear a lot of that. And they're against that. Okay, now I get it, where sometimes maybe that makes sense. But I can tell you that that's a major concern from the people I represent. Because they feel like they're taxed out, they're getting double banged on the taxes, even though the person comes back and they're getting their full retirement and so forth. So it is an issue. And I don't agree just because we've done it in the past, let's do it again. That makes no sense at all. That's almost comical to me. Because you do things the right way and you protect the taxpayer dollar the right way. And you don't overfund, you don't overspend, you don't double dip, and we don't expand government at the drop of a hat. And we're now, I think, the second largest employer in the county. Are you kidding me? We don't grow in population, but we sure grow in positions. And that's why I voted against the budget. One of the reasons. So, I'm going to vote against this. Well, I'm going to be abstaining because I'm on a roll. But I'm totally against this.
Okay, Supervisor Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can see now why we've had difficulty filling positions in the planning department. If this is the way that we treat a 40+ year employee and a department head and a person that's put in 40 years here and gotten the point of order.
What's your point of order?
Oh, Brad.
I started this, I believe, and it has nothing to do with the person. It was how this was all handled. We're not, I wasn't directing anything toward any of the personnel there. I think they do a phenomenal job. And I'm very proud of they do it, and I have nothing against Wayne, Lemon. I think, you know, we've got a different kind of an issue with, but it was the process and I was confused. But I don't feel that this is a direct attack at anybody with 40 years of service.
Continue, Mr. Thompson.
Anyways, I think,
Was I overruled?
Yeah.
What was the?
Oh, there's no ruling?
You made your statement. I'm gonna let Mr. Thomas finish his statement. There's a lot's been said around this room.
well, anyways, you know, I've heard quite a few personal comments towards Mr. Lamont here since I've been sitting here. And I just think that we're gonna benefit from his experience for a few months. And I don't see where the big issue is here, other than some people want to make it an issue. And this man has got no.
Mr. Chairman, my point of order was this, you can't have personal attacks on each other. If we gave a retirement gig to every single person that we like, after they retired, can you imagine what the budget would even look like then? The bottom line is this is not personal. It is the process, and we are not allowed to take those personal attacks. I would appreciate it if the dialogue and the discussion was germane to the topic in front of us, please.
That being said, then let's keep them that way. No more discussion on this position.
I've never been personally attacked. in this
Okay.
sort of-
Any talk on any discussion on any other resolutions? Supervisor Runyon.
Mine's about the budget. What's happening here would not change the budget. He's still gonna get his retirement. Someone is still gonna get the salary.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Bramer on the resolution.
Yes, I have another one, but I guess I won't bring it up because it'll take us too far afield, but I do think we should have a motion to pay Mr. Tackett the salary of the acting director when Joanne left. Aside from
I
that,
would second that motion.
Let's stick to the resolutions.
maybe
that
we can
have.
circle back around to that. I have two things and I'll be brief.
A motion and a second on the floor.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Wait a minute, I'm running the meeting,
Motion.
okay? Go ahead. You talk about a resolution?
Yes, and as one of the candidates for chair, I just want to point out that there are many on here where the chairman has appointed himself to many different positions, and I think it was an opportunity missed to appoint other people and delegate some of this leadership role to others around this table. On a specific other resolution, number 39. This is the one about the solar pilot. Let me just pull it up, please. It's for resolution number 2.
Four.
2.
Two.
It's not about the other one, 2. In the language here, it talks about that we would enter into a pilot agreement and that no exemption from county taxation shall apply for real property located at the property. I think that I do not agree with that because I think what was mentioned earlier is that a pilot can provide some exemption. You can have a level, a range, either no exemption and just full taxation, or you can provide full exemption. So I personally think we should delete that whole bit, and I'd like to make an amendment to that effect. And also, maybe the county attorney can help with this. I'd also like to amend it to say that the IDA cannot enter into a pilot agreement on this property without our consent. As what just happened with the last one, where we did this exact same thing and they went around us. Is that legally possible?
All right, let me address the first part first. The language that's in that resolution comes out of the statute. On the second part regarding the county board, including in this resolution, some action that binds the IDA. Off the top of my head, I can say you can certainly include it. I don't know if it actually binds the IDA going forward. That would be a topic I would need to research and examine in much greater detail. But on the first question, the language is from the statute. And the second question is you can put whatever language you want in the resolution concerning the IDA. I cannot give you an opinion on whether it will be enforceable against the IDA based on what their statutory authority may or may not be to take action in their scope.
Go ahead.
Well, perhaps even if it's not legally binding on the IDA, it will be effective in the minds of our members from this board who are on that body.
Supervisor Rao.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. I wanted to bring this up and I was going to save it for our discussions with, about the solar benefits. But the IDA is a separate body. It has a separate charter provided by the state. And in terms of these benefits, we keep on talking about the benefits that were granted to this solar farm in Queensbury. The problem is that no one said no within that 60-day time frame. Therefore, they get those benefits. You know, the IDA could say no, but the IDA needs to be able to justify why they say no. Is it part of its rules, so to speak? So let's get it clear. These can all happen because of the fact that we didn't respond within 60 days. And as I mentioned earlier, every town should consider doing this. And there's also something called Article N, I think, paragraph N, something to that effect. I'm not sure about all that. And it's also something to consider. It's worth doing. It doesn't mean you say no to everyone. There's exceptions when you can say yes, but it gives you that opportunity to negotiate. And I just think that we should move this forward. It doesn't mean no. It just says not right now. We need to know more about this, but you can't expect us to get our act together within 60 days to say yes or no. That we just automatically say no, and we'll come to the table and we'll discuss. That's all this is trying to say for this resolution and the resolution that follows for all others related to solar, wind, and bioenergy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. To clarify on the record, Mr. Elman, didn't we put in a letter on that last one objecting to? You said we did do it in a timely fashion, but the IDA was able to proceed without us because they have a different statutory authority, correct?
This board passed a resolution not to provide the exemption.
Just like this one.
Let me finish. Yep. For CVE North America, which was the applicant. The county provided written notice within 60 days to the applicant that their notification of exemption was not going to be permitted and that the county would require a pilot agreement. It appears to me, based on what I've seen so far as of today, that same applicant under a different name submitted an application to the IDA for tax relief. While there are notification requirements to the county, we get a ton of different notification requirements, not just from the IDA, but from others. And the notification that went out to this board that's in correspondence for this meeting today was received after the public hearing for the IDA. Now, every single newspaper has failed to mention the fact that this board passed a resolution under 487 for this particular project. And I suspect part of that might be that it's difficult to connect the different names that are used, the applicant's name that appeared with the IDA versus the letter of notification that the county received and acted on earlier in the year. So I'm going to be looking in more detail at the IDA issue over the coming weeks as well. Going back to the original question, the language in the resolution is from the statute. And if you amend the resolution to bind the IDA, you certainly can do that, but I cannot give you an opinion on whether that would be effective today.
Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's one other thing that I forgot to mention, and hopefully the other members can help me out with this. But there's something called an Article 7 that anyone can basically challenge their assessment going forward. And what happens is if you don't provide them a pilot, they can come back every year and challenge the assessment and eventually get to a judge that will say, yes, you're right. You provide no drain on the resources of the school, of the town, of the county, because you're just a passive solar farm. And therefore, the judge or hearing officer can decide to say, yes, you're assessed way too high and you're not going to have to pay these taxes. So there's a balance that happens through this process. And, hopefully we can get some more people engaged to talk through this in the committee discussions that I'm looking forward to attend. But it's very complicated. It's not so cut and dry. There's ways for people to get around this. And on top of it, the state is kind of forcing the IDAs, or let's not say forcing, they're strongly encouraging the IDAs to provide these benefits. So it's a catch-22 from all sorts of different directions. Personally, myself, I don't believe they should get those, but it's a matter of dealing with the law and the regulations and what the consequences are. Thank you.
Supervisor Beatty.
Let's keep in mind, solar creates no new jobs. Solar plant does not pay its sales tax. Okay, everybody with me so far? In the December public hearing with this solar company and the Washington County IDA, there was significant opposition to granting these abatements. Yet the IDA still took a vote. Only 6 members were there, but they still took a vote and they voted to grant all these tax abatements and relief pilot programs. So even if you object, even if you say, no, I don't want you to do that to the school district, the IDA can override that and still do it. So that's very troubling. And again, I'll refer you back to the Senate report that's saying how the IDAs have gone out of control in New York State with their giving away of benefits from the taxpayers. But I just want people to keep in mind this whole process, and more importantly, what's at stake. There's no jobs created here, and that's what the IDA was formed to do in 1969, to help bring in manufacturing jobs and to create additional sales tax revenue. There are 0 here with this project, 0. So that alone should have hopefully conveyed the members of the IDA to say, hey, this doesn't even fall within the parameters of our own bylaws. But I get it. They've all exploded now. Everybody gets pilots, everybody gets tax abatements, and the taxpayers end up holding the bag and having to absorb all this. And I've had enough with it. And I can tell you, Washington County Supervisors, there's already talk about disbanding the IDA. From numerous supervisors over Washington County have already on record saying they may pursue disbanding one Washington County IDA because they don't see any benefits coming from it, just hardships on the taxpayers. So thank you.
Supervisor Bramer on this.
I'd like to
resolution.
circle back to my amendment then, not to change the language, but to add that the WWIDA members from Warren County are directed not to enter into a pilot agreement without further direction from the
Wouldn't this
county.
do the same thing?
I'm not sure that language is going to be legal because you're trying to bind members that you're pointing to in another board to act individually. And I believe once they're appointed under the IDA, they're actually members of that board. I don't, off the top of my head, I have a feeling that that may not be legal language to bind someone's future actions as you're appointing them to that independent position.
Supervisor, I like it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a past member and perhaps a current member of the IDA, I have heard the discussion around this table, take it to heart, and will respect the words and wishes of the supervisors to consider the county in a greater measure when it comes to solar projects.
Any other discussions on any other resolutions? Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you. I have 2. I'd like to circle back to the motion that came off before, but first and foremost, resolution number 9. I'll group this in with resolution 13, 14, 15, 17, and 23. Mr. Chairman, at this point in time, you've now, and another one in there somewhere, you have appointed yourself to 6 different committees when my colleague from Glens Falls brought up that quite frankly, you could be delegating and hopefully encouraging other members of the board to step up when there's opportunities to want to engage and to feel comfortable in asking for that. I'm bringing up number 9 and not in any way a personal attack. So let's get that on the record right up front. This has nothing to do with the budget officer personally. This has to do with the fact that for years on this board, I've asked the board to consider an assistant budget officer. This particular person not only was in charge of a $3,000, I believe it was raised last year for this position that he will now assume again, but also in this course of the year and as budget officer has done it for years and years. I think it's time that we start looking differently at how we manage our finances here and how we interact clearly with each other. But none of us, well, I shouldn't say none of us, let me correct that. I, of course, was not contacted at all about the committee list. I have no idea if I'm on it or not, but clearly other members were. I know that wasn't limited to just me. That was many of my colleagues from Queensbury that also weren't contacted. Not all colleagues, just some. I think that the problem here is that we're looking at voting on a resolution that puts someone as a budget officer. We have no idea who the other committee chairs are. I assume Supervisor from Chester is the finance chair since you had him take over for you. But I also think that, you know, this is something that over and over and over, we talk about the problem with our budget. And we all want to sit here and say it's a really difficult job, but if you had someone helping, you had a transparent process, which does not occur most years on this board. I'm completely opposed to doing what we've always done just because, as the supervisor said, it's the way it works here. I think we deserve to step up to the plate, and our taxpayers deserve an opportunity to have a say and to have a voice, and we're not seeing that. So I'm really disappointed to see these appointments. And again, nothing changing from years prior when you were the chair as well, Mr. Chairman. That being said, I'm sure no one else has comment on those topics. I would like to revisit the motion in the second that is on the floor. I've heard a lot of criticism from many people on this board about what's going on with the tourism position. You have an individual who's been acting in that capacity, which I have confirmed with HR through Trish. I've talked to our county administrator about it. He deserves an opportunity to be paid. He's doing the job as the director. So if obviously there's many people here really excited about this new position being created for someone who's retiring, this gentleman is with us. He's working, he's doing the job. And we should sit here and have a resolution that would appoint him to the acting director of tourism. He is qualified. He has been doing the job. He has a degree in European history. And I think it's unfair for us not to do that.
Thank you.
Well, there's a motion and a second. Is there?
Are you making a motion?
It was already made. It's already on the floor.
We have a motion?
You need a motion to waive the rule.
We need a motion to waive the rules.
I'll
Is
make
that
them.
by Supervisor McGowan? Waive the rules. We have a second to waive the rules, second by Supervisor Diamond. Roll call vote to waive the rules.
With as many abstentions, yes.
Pardon me?
Since there's so many abstentions, I think it would only be fair.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yeah.
Mr. Dickinson,
What are we doing?
waiving the rules to consider the resolution to pay a current tourism employee the director's salary. Retroactive.
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Going yes.
Ms. Seaver,
It kills me. I'm abstaining.
Mr. Beatty,
I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
We tried paying them more last month and it didn't pass. I'm going to say no.
Point of order.
Sure.
He has no vote. Come on.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity. Okay, because that has, there's 673 votes in favor of waiving the rules, so the rules are waived. Now you return to your other motion by Ms., I believe it was Ms. Bramer and Ms. Seaver.
Yes. Motion by Supervisor Bramer, second by Supervisor Seaver. You want to restate your motion? Please.
Sure, I'll try to be as clear as possible to pay Mr. Tackett the salary of the Director of Tourism retroactive to the date that the prior tourism director left through whenever we have the next director, less the time that Mr. Snow was here.
And I would,
That shouldn't have any budget implications.
and I would.
And
agree
what
to that
salary?
second.
The former salary?
Whatever's budgeted or.
The budget salary, what?
Yeah, the budgeted salary.
Motion, do we have a second?
I would second that motion. I want to be clear, this is different than motions that have come before this board before to appoint and to create a new title. That is not what we're doing here. This does not need a 2/3 vote. This is to appoint an individual who's doing the job into the position of an existing director position that is currently vacant because he's doing the job. He's not retiring. He is here. Let's honor the fact, the work that he's done, and let's not use excuses on why it fails.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, can I just,
go ahead.
on that motion, I just want to make the board aware that there may be a legal issue with going back into 2022 to pay for work that was already performed. But we will look at that issue and I will talk with the treasurer regardless of what action the board takes today on it.
That being said, I'm sorry, I would not be comfortable then. I would like an amended so that it would be from 2023 on. I don't want to take any chances because we'll be stuck again coming back. And I think you would appreciate at least having a director's position from January 1,
Did Supervisor Bramer agree to that?
Yes, it was.
the budgeted director.
I got you. Hold on.
I really hope that that will satisfy people and that it will go forward. Yes.
Okay, Supervisor Leggett, Supervisor Chow, and then Supervisor Melino. Try to get you all. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this well-qualified individual has been filling a director's role in the absence of a director in the tourism office since last April. And there was an attempt to provide a temporary position and an increase in pay last month. And because of the number of abstentions and other things, it failed. And it was disgusting to me that it failed for no particular reason. Now to have it brought back up and at the last minute and think that there should be, and these are, it's beyond me. Why didn't you vote for it last month when it was in front of you and it had gone through all the proper channels?
Supervisor Stout.
Yes, thank you. I seem to remember that we tried to do retroactive pay with a particular individual, a great individual in the health department here at the county. And we were told that we can't do retroactive. Now, if we can, that's great. I support that. But I wouldn't want this to be the poison pill. So if it turns out that we can't do retroactive pay, and like I said, I support it if it's legal. I don't want it to kill the proposed salary increase for this individual who well deserves it. So I just want to make that no. I support this. I think it's a great idea. But I don't want the retroactivity part to be the killer.
Supervisor Merlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm all for this, but I think the attorney should go back and look at what is his title and what he is supposed to be doing. It's written, HR has it. It says in it verbatim almost that he is the second in command, and when the first in command is not around, he takes over. Or we wait for him like with the first one. There's nothing in there that says that he should get more money for doing the job that's in his job title. But I'm not against giving him more money. But I think somebody should look at that first. You might have to change the wording on that.
Supervisor.
2 points. The motion was amended to remove the retroactive piece. So the person who made the motion agreed to that. So we aren't talking about a retroactive. There's no legal issue there. So if you want, we can do it from today's date, but we're just talking retro. for someone else. So I think this is really a shame because you have a member who is doing the job, who was introduced by the tourism director as the person managing and the director of tourism months ago. The reason it failed before, it was creating a new position, Chestertown supervisor. It
Town of
required a
Chester.
2/3. It created a 2/3 requirement. And in fact, that's why it failed. Also that we don't have extraordinary circumstances. So you have people that have to leave or people that are sick. There's lots of reasons why it failed. But frankly, here today, all we're asking to do is pay an employee the job that they're doing. That's it.
All right, can we vote on resolutions?
Can we, please,
Run this.
Yeah, we need to vote on this. motion.
Okay. Vote on the motion.
So this motion, as I understand it, is to pay Mr. Tackett, the tourism director's budgeted salary from January first going forward.
yes,
Until position is filled?
yeah.
Is that a legal concern, Mr. County Attorney, that it's January 1st? If it is, let's do it effective today.
There's been a difference of opinion between my office and the treasurer on the past regarding that.
Okay,
My position is January 1st would be fine. The treasurer, I believe, took a different position on a prior issue. So if you wanted to make it really, really clean, it would be effective as of today.
I would be willing to do that in the interest of getting a director paid for the job that they're doing.
I just want to point out, we're doing it for Mr. Lamoth, January 1.
Well, the
Why are we doing it retroactive there? Oh, okay, fine, today, effective today.
You can always.
So there's no issue.
Okay, so effective today.
Sorry.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes,
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver.
I didn't hear you call Supervisor Wild. Last time he voted from away from his seat. So is there any way you would vote on this since you're in the room?
There wasn't enough votes to pass this?
No.
Really?
Yeah, so we skipped over you. Are you voting on this?
Yes.
Normally, guys, your seat. It's for-
Ms. Seaver,
I am abstaining because I believe there are the votes to pass this to be consistent with my practice.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
No.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes,
Okay, that passes. There are 710 votes in favor.
okay, start on resolutions. What's the resolution? See, that's it.
Closing discussion. Or you just-
Yeah, we're gonna close the discussion. We're gonna vote on resolutions. All.
Okay. Okay, we're starting to vote on resolutions. All right, it's okay. All right, resolution number 9, designating budget officer. Mr. Diamond,
Yeah.
Ms. Bramer,
yes,
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
I'll abstain.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes,
Resolution passes. Resolution 10, designating member of county jury board. Mr. Diamond,
Yeah.
Ms. Bramer,
yes,
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yeah.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud, Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yeah.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
yes,
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution number 11, appointing representative to the Adirondack Balloon Festival Committee. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
yes,
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
An enthusiastic yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yeah.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud.
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Double abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
yes,
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 12, appointing members of the Board of Directors of the Warren Hamilton Counties Action Committee for Economic Opportunity. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yeah.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud.
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan.
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver.
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty.
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon.
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 13, appointing representatives to the Adirondack Park Local Government Review Board. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes. All right.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
It's catch, abstain.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
I'll abstain, but if anybody would want to join this committee in my spot, be my guest. I've done it for a long time, travel all over the North Country to these meetings. So if anybody feels that they would like to replace me on this, just let me know.
Okay, resolution passes with 650 votes in favor.
And by the way, I don't take mileage either.
Resolution 14, appointing representatives to the Intercounty Legislative Committee of the Adirondacks, Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Abstain.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
We have enough if I abstain?
That's not how you, what you're
Yes.
supposed to do.
I'll abstain.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 574 votes in favor. Resolution 15, appointing members of the Lake Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
I really wanted to abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Really wanted.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 16, appointing coordinator of the first Wilderness Heritage Corridor Project. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 17, appointing members to represent Warren County on the Policy Committee of the Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 18, appointing members to represent the rural areas of Warren County on the Policy Committee of the Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 19, appointing members to serve on the Planning Committee, formerly known as the Technical Advisory Committee of the Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yeah.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution number 20, appointing member and alternate member to represent Warren County on the Region 5 Open Space Conservation Advisory Committee. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Abstain.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 586 votes in favor. Resolution 21, appointing members of the Board of Directors of the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 22, appointing members to the Warren Washington County Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corporation. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
No.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 576 votes in favor. Resolution 23, appointing members of the Traffic Safety Board. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 24, authorizing ARPA funds disbursement to Servants of the Word, Inc., DBA The Open Door.
Chairman, excuse me. I know that we talked about this earlier, but in recognition of the good work of the ARPA Advisory Committee, is there any objection to batching these together? With the understanding that those that may choose to abstain can abstain on all of the resolutions.
One vote for 24 through 35.
That's 24 through 35. Is
Correct.
there any objection? No objection? Okay, we'll vote.
This is a vote,
Resolution 24.
this is a vote on resolutions 24 through 35. All of those are ARPA disbursements. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild.
Yeah.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett.
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay, resolutions 24 through 35 all passed, vote of 722. Let's get up to the newer one. Okay. To resolution number 36, amending resolution number 570 of 2021, an agreement with Adirondack Cycling Advocates. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson.
Yes.
Mr. Martino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild.
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 37, authorizing agreements with certain applicants for the disbursement of 2023 occupancy tax revenues. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 39, resolution requiring ASD Spartan NY2 Solar LLC to enter into an agreement for payments in lieu of taxes. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 41, introducing proposed local law number 2 of 2023 entitled a local law amending and updating section 4 of local law number 9 of 2021, a local law reapportioning the weighted vote of the Warren County Board of Supervisors amongst 20 members. Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution number 43. Approving a settlement agreement with regard to the opioid crisis and authorizing acceptance of the Teva New World statewide opioid settlement agreement. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 45, home rule request by Warren County for an extension to the law authorizing and empowering the county of Warren to impose an additional mortgage recording tax. Mr. Diamond.
Yes.
Ms. Bramer.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino.
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes with 633 votes in favor. Resolution 47, appointing Wayne Lamoth as Director of Planning and Community Development. Mr. Diamond,
No.
Ms. Bramer,
No.
Mr. Bruno,
No.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Abstain.
Ms. Seaver,
Abstain.
Mr. Beatty,
Abstain.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover.
Yeah.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution passes with 509 votes in favor. You don't have a collective because you voted on it.
Okay. Any privilege of the floor? Anybody wish to address, please come up. And to the podium, state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Linda Clark. I know this is after the fact, but I just want you to know, I'm a retired teacher. There is no way I could go back and work my full salary without giving up my part of my retirement. So what that is double dipping. And imagine what would happen and how much you would be paying in school taxes if that were allowed. That's wrong. Just saying.
Anybody else wish to address the board? Anybody from the public? Okay, we'll go around the room. Supervisor Driscoll.
This is the Glens Falls redistricting map. Anyone who's interested in the copy can get it at the City of Glens Falls Clerk's office. I think it's also on their website if you download that. I had a discussion to the supervisor to my physical left earlier today because part of the fifth ward was basically transferred to the fourth ward. And I also picked up part of the fourth ward, which is now in the fifth ward. As has been my practice since I've never Twittered or done Instagram or some of those social medias. I will be putting a letter together along with Supervisor Bruno with some assistance from Don Lehman so that we can go door to door to all of the properties in the fourth and fifth ward, introduce ourselves as either being the new supervisor or the old supervisor, as well as currently in the other part. So, and I encourage maybe some other supervisors from the city to do the same. I also am going to work with Mr. Lehman to get a press release or a letter that identifies specific streets and properties that fall within the new jurisdictions. A lot of the residents that I represent get their news from newspapers, pieces of paper that they read either weekly or daily. Some go to websites, but not everyone. I want to make sure that that people know who is representing them. And for the people that I no longer represent, they still know what my phone number is and where I live. So I would encourage them if I'm going to tell them if they're in good hands, if they're now in the fourth ward, but also we work together and encourage them to continue to share their concerns and comments with us. So thank you.
Okay, going around Supervisor Drossy.
Yeah, just to clear the record, Mr. Chair, there was a statement earlier about the chair not contacting or speaking to members of this board, members of committee assignments. To be clear, the clerk of the board, unless I'm the only one that got it, I believe, sent an email to all supervisors with preferences for committees. Am I correct? Okay, thank you.
Anybody, Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, thank you. I'm just wondering, we got our packages and I see that we have committee meetings this morning, but I have not seen or heard anything, and obviously there's other members of the board that already know probably the committees they are sitting on, but I have no idea. So will we be getting?
That's part of the announcements. Please stop by the clerk's office, sign your oath's office and pick up the committee list.
Can I ask a question for why they weren't distributed before the meeting?
Just hadn't finished them, and usually we distribute on the day of the organizational meeting.
Well, I'm wondering why it was being brought up at the end of the meeting and not at the beginning.
It's the way I've always done it.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you. I have three very quick items, and to my supervisor from Horicon, I won't painfully go around this room and ask every supervisor if they received a call from the chairman or a meeting or an email. I have not. I know many others have not. That's my point. You received an email from the clerk of the board who really works very hard, was asked to do that, I'm sure. But the point is, a chair has an absolute opportunity to email, to call. And frankly, I know when I was chair, that's exactly what I did. And the lists were distributed before today's meeting. So there is a way to do this transparently and fairly. That was my point to those comments. That being said, I have a question for our county attorney. And then I have one comment after that. I need a little bit of legal advice here, and I think we should all benefit from this. I witnessed a conversation today after our executive session before the next session started. And so what I'd like to be clear on, Mr. County Attorney, is that if we're in an executive session and a member recuses themselves, I have two parts to this question. A member recuses themselves. Are we permitted as a member of the body to then fill in the person who recused themselves?
I cannot give an answer off the cuff on that. A member who recuses themselves is not participating in the event. I'm not aware off the top of my head of anything that says they can't be informed of what occurred. but I'll look into that and I'll get back to the supervisor from Queensberry.
Thank you. And conversely, is that member that recused themselves permitted after recusing to ask questions or to inquire about what took place, whether it be during executive session or regarding another vote, why a member voted one way or the other if they recused themselves? Clearly, a recusal is different, we all know, than an abstention.
I would have to look into that farther. I'm not aware of any restrictions outside of the restrictions that are created by not participating.
Okay, so that being said, Mr. County Attorney, knowing that today is my last board meeting, I won't be here for the February 17th. My resignation will go in on or before the 23rd, like I said, back on the eve of Thanksgiving. So if you don't have that answer, I would still very much appreciate some type of communication to me as a then member of the public, if it takes that long to look at what a recusal means and those limitations. But at this point in time, I did want to thank the people of Queensberry for the opportunity to serve them since 2014 and the people of Warren County for placing their trust in me since 1999 into 2000 when I worked as a crime victim advocate. I've been very blessed to serve in this role and as an employee. And again, all my thanks goes to the people that are members of our community in Queensberry, and I very much appreciate the opportunity. And that concludes my final report, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's been some outstanding chairmen and chairwomen in the past. And Rachel Siebel definitely falls within one of the outstanding individuals. Her work ethic during her year as chairwoman, you could put the last 10 chair people together and it wouldn't have equaled what she put in that year. And the fact that she's leaving is a huge loss to this board. And the fact that Andrea Hogan, supervisor from Johnsburg, is leaving is a huge loss. But unfortunately, some things happen in life that are create situations that it makes not working bearable. I'm not saying that happened with Dr. Sieber, who is a doctor. She's got her PhD now. But I can tell you this, that it's been an honor and a pleasure working with her and representing Queensberry. And there's not any supervisor from Queensberry who works harder than she does. So I just want to thank her personally, and I think the board owes her a huge debt of gratitude for serving this county.
Anybody else? Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to point out to Dr. Sieber that I've enjoyed working with her immensely. She's shown a lot of passion for Warren County. She always comes to these meetings prepared. At times, we may have not agreed on every subject matter, but that's okay. That's what it's all about. But I wish her very, very good luck in her future endeavors. I want to say to her that we're going to miss your passion. And I hope the best for you going forward. Thank you for being a friend, a colleague, and a hard worker for Warren County.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. I would like to join in that, but I don't want to step on any toes of the chair if you have statements for Supervisor Sieber's last day.
Yeah.
Well, if you'll let me, thank you, Supervisor Sieber, for your many years of service to the people of Warren County, and thank you for your dedication as a supervisor from Queensberry on this board. As my colleague said, you're always prepared, you're always persistent, and you're always looking out for the best interests of Warren County. You will be remembered for your time as chairwoman of the board, for keeping all of us informed, even if some of your emails were a little too long for us at times. But thank you so much for your communication to the public and with the public, which during a time that was still very difficult through the COVID situation, and for offering many opportunities for us to get involved and to take leadership roles and to engage with our community as supervisors in each of our respective areas. And who can possibly forget your certificates to all the many entities throughout the county, for thanking them for their contributions to our county and for also making sure that they knew we were here to serve them and to help them. And so I would like to thank you for your friendship and also for your time serving this board and to wish you the best of luck in all your endeavors, Dr. Sieber, for your future teaching and for everything that you're out there to do. Thank you.
Anybody else? Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too wish all the best for Supervisor Dr. Rachel Sieber. As there's very few people in this world that can do as much at one time as she is able to do. And I only wish that I had half of her recall memory for what has happened years ago in these meetings that can seem so chaotic with so much going on, and you always come through. I've always admired that trait. I wish I had half of that. So we've been through a lot, and as Supervisor Diamond said, not always agreed, but what a great partner in this democratic process to have. You will be missed.
Supervisor McGowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to say, I have never met anybody that has the drive and the passion that she has for really politics, but really to represent people. She is very admirable in that, and I have enjoyed along with working with her, but knocking on doors and going to Queensbury and going to functions around the county with her, and what she has taught me and how she has helped me move forward in the politics. I feel I'm losing a right hand, and I know I am. And geez, I might even cry here. She knows I adore, and I think you all know how much I adore her and I appreciate her. But what she has done for this county is beyond belief. Just not the constituents of Queensbury, but in the county. You know, and I always relate the stories when she was chair, which I will probably put down as one of the best chairs I think Warren County has ever had. Yeah, her emails, if you didn't get 10 a day, something was wrong, all right? And it would just happen to be a slow day. But if you read those emails and followed through, you knew exactly everything was going on in every square inch of this county. And I have to say, the passion for that is, it is a shame that it has come to this, so she has to leave. But I am pleased that she is following through with her dream after becoming a doctor and going after her teaching and be able to hopefully teach more people, all right, to get into politics or just be the best you can and be that thoughtful person. And that is Dr. Sieber right there. I mean, the cards, the thankfulness, everything that she went through on top of that pandemic. So we are really grateful. But on a sad note, I'd like to bring up to the fact that there are 4 women. Oh, I want to go on to Andrea Hogan. There's another one that I am so saddened to hear, but happy that she's going to be getting back with the family and fulfilling a job. And what she has brought to this county and this board is just, you can't speak, any more kind words. And there's 2 key people on this board, all right? But what is more surprising, it is 2 women, all right? And there are 2 women from the Queensbury board. So that's 4 women that have resigned from their positions or did not seek re-election, all right? Due to some of the processes that we have here, or some of the, how would I say it, the harassment that goes on behind the scene and toward the families. And I have brought this up before. It is a shame because we are all humans and we should be good Christian humans, and that's what we try to be. But I just want to say that, Dr. Sieber, thank you very much for all you have given me, the constituents of Queensbury, and what you have brought to this board. Thank you so much.
I too would like to wish Rachel the best in her next endeavor. I really, we did have some good times on some of our inter-county trips. With a lot of my colleagues, it's seen have gone off the rails in the last few years, but I do wish her the best. And I think she's pursuing a career that she feels comfortable in. I, for one, have not been happy with the last few years around the county and hope that we go in the next direction. But I sincerely want to wish you the best and hope that you do fine in teaching young people what's right and what's wrong. So very best of luck here in the future. Anybody else? Because we did have some good times on our trips. Okay, that being said, meeting adjourned.
So moved.